Has Trump threatened to invade Greenland? Well, that depends on how you interpret his words. In this show, we're taking a closer look at what he has actually said. Welcome to Views from Europe. I'm Helena Trotzenfeldt.
Dry, sterile thunder without rain. Ice, but no water. A sterile land. Godless land. Unreal.
That was a scene from the TV series Vikings. How did Greenland become Danish? 1,000 years ago, Vikings made their way there from Iceland and created settlements along the coast. Several thousand Norse people lived there for a short time. And in the early 18th century, 700 years later, Denmark and Norway, which were one country at the time, managed to convince the world of their ownership of the island, even though none of the Viking settlements actually remained since long. Nowadays, the island is no longer a colony, but an independent part of the country. There are two reasons why Greenland has suddenly become relevant. One is the natural resources that are supposed to appear as climate change causes the snow to melt. A rough estimate is that they are worth over $5,000 billion. With a population of just 56,000 people, this means that every person living there would own 100 millions. Well, of course, that is not that simple, but it gives an indication. The other known reason why Trump wants to get his hands on the island is for defense. And here things quickly get messy because there is a big difference between wanting to protect the Greenlanders and wanting to protect your own country. That the Greenlanders would live under the threat of being invaded by Russia and China, as Trump likes to claim, that is not serious. China doesn't even have a route to Greenland that doesn't involve either the Bering Strait, the Panama Canal, or the rounding of South America or Africa. Russia does have the North Pole as a path, but safely transporting soldiers, weapons, and supplies to Greenland in such quantities that it's possible to hold the island against all of NATO, that would not be serious either. They barely managed to hold Ukraine, to which they have a border. On the other hand, that Greenland is needed for the defense of the United States is absolutely true. Russian missiles could very well find their way over Greenland to the United States. But the United States has a military base there already, and they already have the right to expand the number of troops almost indefinitely. So the excuse that they have to take over and own the island for their own defense rings hollow. So what it all boils down to is that Trump wants to literally put himself on the map by expanding the United States for the same reasons he renamed the Gulf of Mexico and wants to take over Canada and the Panama Canal. So how is he going about it? His first move was to try to persuade Denmark to sell the island. He already proposed that during his last term. The proposal was so absurd on so many levels that the Danes mostly laughed at him, at least at first, and they pointed to the obvious. Even if they had wanted to, which of course they didn't, they wouldn't have had that right because the island belongs to the Greenlanders. The governance is complicated. The island has 56,000 inhabitants, so around 50,000 are adults with the right to vote. They elect their own parliament and also have 2 permanent seats in the Danish parliament. The only thing Denmark really has the right to decide on is the currency policy and defense policy. But Greenlanders are all Danish citizens. They are counted as Greenlanders if they are permanently residents of the island. So a Dane who moves to Greenland is therefore counted as a Greenlander, and vice versa. A Greenlander who leaves the island no longer has the right to vote there. Trump then got angry, and at the last minute he cancelled a planned trip to Denmark, which of course cost the Danes a lot. And so his first term ended. This time he has been much more focused. Back in December, before he took office, he declared that his newly appointed ambassador to Denmark had the task of taking over the island to ensure national security and freedom worldwide. But in the very next sentence, it is no longer the world, but the interests of the United States that are to be represented. Then came his Christmas greeting to the people of Greenland, which is needed for national security purposes. He added that they want the United States there. He then held a press conference in early January, still before he took office, and explained the same thing.
Can you assure the world that as you try to get control of these areas, you are not going to use military or economic coercion?
No.
What is the strategy?
Yeah. I can't assure you, you're talking about Panama and Greenland. No, I can't assure you on either of those two. But I can say this, we need them for economic security. It might be that you'll have to do something.
We need them for economic security, and it might be that you have to do something. Those were his words. Is there a threat in there? Well, that's a semantics question. It was probably the first time he was asked that question outright, and every time he has answered that since then, he has said that he doesn't really rule it out, but he has often added that it's probably not going to be necessary. Don Jr. went there soon after, and according to The Guardian, who were there, he hired homeless people. I have to admit, I didn't think such people existed in such a cold country with such a small population. But anyway, he dressed them in MAGA hats and declared that more or less all Greenlanders wanted to become Americans. They also told of an 11-year-old boy who received a $100 bill from them.
Okay.
So, like, if you could tell Trump anything, what would it be?
Buy us.
By Greenland?
Buy Greenland.
Why do you want Trump to buy Greenland?
Because we don't want to be colonized by Danish government anymore. We get ripped every year about our minerals from Greenland. We are the richest nation in the world, and we don't get to use it. Denmark's using us too much.
Do you like America?
I love America, but people are too fat over there.
The guy is actually wrong, by the way. The Greenlanders get money from Denmark, but Denmark gets nothing from Greenland. So it's actually kind of a bad deal for Denmark, not for Greenland. At the beginning of March, it was time for Trump's speech to Congress. And there he managed to both declare that Greenlanders have the right to decide for themselves and still slip in a little threat at the end, and get laughter and applause for it.
And I also have a message tonight for the incredible people of Greenland. We strongly support your right to determine your own future. And if you choose, we welcome you into the United States of America. We need Greenland for national security and even international security, and we're working with everybody involved to try and get it. But we need it really for international world security, and I think we're going to get it. One way or the other, we're going to get it. We will keep you safe. We will make you rich, and together we will take Greenland to heights like you have never thought possible before.
So, to conclude, the people should decide. They can choose for themselves. The reasons are international security and national. And one way or the other, he will have Greenland. Threat of invasion or not? In March, J.D. Vance's wife, Usha, was supposed to go there on a sort of reverse state visit, where she was, of course, not invited by anyone at all. And she was going to go to their main dog sledding race. She seems to have realized herself that that was a bad idea, because suddenly her husband was supposed to come with her, and then they wouldn't look at any dogs at all, nor meet any Greenlanders, but only visit the US base. He gave a long speech at the base, where he explained that the United States needed Greenland to be able to shoot down missiles, which is true, while also explaining that it was why they had the military base where he was. So that motive kind of fell apart on its own. Then he explained that the United States needs access to the Arctic, but they already do, via Alaska.
A lot about the respect that our American troops show for the local Greenlandic population, the way that we make and create shelter for hunters and dog sledders, the way that we found ways to turn over traditional tribal land to some of the local populations in order to ensure that they're able to live in accordance with their values. We respect, as the president said in his State of the Union address, we respect the self-determination of Greenlanders. We believe in the self-determination of the population of the people of Greenland. And our argument is very simple. It is not with the people of Greenland, who I think are incredible and have an incredible opportunity here. Our argument really is with the leadership of Denmark, which is underinvested in Greenland and underinvested in its security architecture. That simply must change. It is the policy of the United States that will change, and I'm proud to be able to stand here with so many brave Americans to better understand the security mission and better understand what you guys do each and every day. For that, I'm grateful for your service. I'm even more grateful. I love you guys. I'm proud of you guys, and President Trump stands behind you and will for the remainder of his administration. Thank you all. God bless you.
Now remember that he has only met his countrymen, no Greenlanders. So when he tells what he has heard about how good the Americans are to the Greenlanders, he is channeling their self-praise. After this, as you heard, he scolded Denmark for not helping to protect the military base there, which is kind of a weird ask to begin with. And he claimed that Russia and China could therefore be aggressive towards the Greenlanders. No examples of this happening, though. It is painful to listen to the bragging combined with the condescending criticism of Denmark. It's like proposing to someone by saying, "You're rich, I need your money, and I'm very good, unlike your current husband, who is super bad." Apart from using the adjective incredible or some synonym like Trump every time he talks about the Greenlanders, he doesn't make the slightest attempt to flirt with them or to show that he understands them. He also says that Greenland could very well be ruled by the Chinese Communist Party. He does not explain how, though. Maggie Haberman, who has some of the best contacts within the Trump administration, confirms in an article in the New York Times that there are actually far-reaching plans for how the island will be taken over from the administration. It's about advertising campaigns in social media, but no real plan for a military takeover. J.D. Vance also seems to have taken that path in an interview with Newsmax, and he laughed, in my view, quite falsely, at the idea that they would use force. Instead, they should offer Greenlanders money that exceeds the amount that Denmark pays. That means $60,000 per person a year. Note how he squirms when he tries to pretend that he has actually spoken to a single Greenlander.
Yeah, the op-ed from MSNBC, not that anybody really cares about MSNBC, but it said an invasion of Greenland could actually happen. What are we doing in Greenland?
Look, it's very simple. I think Americans, by the way, don't fully realize how important this is to our own security. Yeah. So all of the missile defense that we have depends on having a presence in Greenland, because you think, God forbid, if somebody fires a missile at us, it's going to come over the Arctic. We need to have the visibility of what's going on there. And look, Denmark, which of course controls Greenland right now, they've really underinvested in the infrastructure and in the security of Greenland. The president, what he said, of course the media attacks it, but it's very common sense. Yeah. It's, look, this matters to our security, this matters to our missile defense, and we're going to protect America's interests come hell or high water.
And it seems pretty clear that the people of Greenland want to get away from Denmark.
Right.
Did you get the feeling that they are open to being a part of the United States in some fashion? Or I mean, what do you?
I think the first step, they've made it very clear that they want to be independent of Denmark. Now, there's a worry there. The thing that I picked up on is they get about $60,000 a year from the government of Denmark. That's $60,000 per year per person in Greenland. What the president has said is we could give the people of Greenland way more money than that, again, because the security matters to the United States of America. But yeah, I think they want to be independent from Denmark, and then once they do that, we can have a conversation about the relationship we'll have with the United States and Greenland.
This payment thing seems actually quite backwards. If Greenland is so rich, why should anyone pay them anything? Shouldn't the country be able to live off of its own resources in the same way that, for example, the UAE lives off its oil? It also feels as if Vance has gone all out now with his proposal to Greenland. I will pay you if you marry me, because then I get access to your resources. But if violence is out of the question, why these repeated threats from Trump? The question was asked by 60
President
Minutes.
Trump offered to buy the territory from the Danish government that controls it. When his overtures were dismissed as absurd, Trump doubled down and now declines to rule out force, also vowing to acquire Greenland, quote, one way or the other. It makes for strange and scary times for the predominantly indigenous Inuit population.
Trump did not like that at all. He tweeted, "The other story was having to do with Greenland casting our country as led by me falsely, inaccurately, and fraudulently." Those three words are pretty much synonyms, but who's counting? But he didn't actually object to them saying that he was planning to use violence. And that is a pretty common technique on his part. He says two contradictory things. In this case, we respect the Greenlanders' right to self-determination, and I don't rule out violence. We'll have the island one way or another. And then everyone can choose which version they want to believe and blame the others for not listening properly.